In confusion and uncertainty, there emerges a guiding light, a beacon that cuts through the darkness. Welcome to Beacon of Truth with your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beacon of Truth. I am your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and you're listening on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. And it truly is a global network, and it is stated by the fact that I am now in Papua New Guinea. I've been here all week, speaking at a number of different events, first for youth and young adults, and for general audience earlier in the week in the capital city of Port Moresby. Then I preached at Mass. We went north and preached at Mass at the cathedral, and now I'm in the city of Mendi, leading a retreat for priests here, and it's been really amazing to see the faith of the people here. It's just so beautiful to experience our Catholic faith in so many different parts of the world. You know, it's just 34 countries that I've been to, and it's just wonderful to see how the faith is lived and expressed in different parts of the world, but yet we are still one body, one family in Christ. And speaking of the importance of family, I am so excited for our very special guest today, Debbie Capen, who's the executive director of MiraVia. Now, I got a chance to meet Debbie at the Catholic Leadership Conference. So the Catholic Leadership Conference, I've been part of Catholic Leadership Conference for years, but then it kind of, it kind of went defunct and then was restarted again in 2025. And our first kind of revival meeting was held at Franciscan University of Steubenville, and I got a chance to have dinner with Debbie and some other folks. And you just sit down with somebody you don't know and you just start talking. And then we had a connection with Belmont Abbey. And so as you know, if you listen to the show, you know that I was a Benedictine at Newark Abbey, which is in the same congregation of Benedictine monks as Belmont Abbey. And I actually stayed at Belmont Abbey when I was speaking at a Legatus event in Charlotte, North Carolina. I said, oh, I'm familiar with Belmont. And then Debbie was telling me the work that she's doing and the connection with Belmont Abbey and how they gave her, space and land to be able to do the incredible work that she's doing with MiraVia. And so I was just really intrigued, and I was thinking, man, I got to have her on the show to talk about the amazing work that she's doing. And she's going to come on and talk about that. But basically, it's MiraVia is an outreach center that serves pregnant women in need through long-term support groups and parenting resources and material assistance. And what's great is that this is happening also on college campus as well, right? So that's one of the unique things about this is that, you hear about crisis pregnancy centers and women's centers and things like that that are faith-based, which are awesome. But on a college campus, we often don't think about these college students, and I worked as a police chief on the college campus for 11 years. So I know what goes on, even on Catholic campuses, and these women, become pregnant. And then what do I do now? What about my college career? What choices and decisions should I be making? And we're grateful to God for places like MiraVia that help these women, not just materially and corporeally, but also spiritually as well. So I'm very, very excited to talk with the executive director of MiraVia, Debbie Capen, about the great work that she's doing. And of course, we'd love for you to be part of the program today. Send us an email, beacon@ewtn.com. Well, we have to wait until the next segment to introduce Debbie and the great work that she's doing at MiraVia. But what we don't have to wait for is introducing the crew that helps bring you this show each and every day. I'm talking about Vanessa, who screens the calls, and also all the folks that bring the social media. But of course, the main man, of course, is who? Ace McKay. Ace, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. Shout out to Pedro and Michael for helping to manage social media.
Pedro and Michael, yeah, because I had the old names here on this.
Jet lag will do that to you. You know that.
Yeah, see, there you go. Hey, there you go. That's the excuse I could use. Jet lag.
So I want to ask
How's it going
you
today, my friend?
I'm good. So you were talking about when you were in law enforcement and you know what's going on campuses. What kind of approach were you? Who were you that abrasive joker? Like you were like all right, what's going on over here? Like what was your approach when you were facing and dealing with college students?
Yeah. So the way I saw it, and the way also, by the way, that I articulated this to my officers was that, look, these young people are here to get an education. All right, they're here to learn. They're here to grow spiritually, intellectually, but they're like kids who are wearing their father's clothes. Right, it's too big. Their adult clothes are too big for them. Right, and so as they're trying to fit into these new adult clothes, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to as they're learning to fit into these new clothes, they're going to make mistakes, sometimes big, scary, messy mistakes, and that we have to be there to help them. So just like they're receiving an education intellectually, we need to help them in the classroom of real life. And so we need to be there when they make the mistakes to hold them accountable, to help them to learn and grow from these mistakes, so that so they make the mistakes now, they learn from the mistakes, they deal with the consequences of the mistakes at this level before they make a mistake after they graduate from here, and that's going to cost them a job or a reputation or a marriage, right, or a career. So learn from the mistakes now and then grow. And there's several. Don't have time, obviously, and this is not what the show is about, but there are several stories that maybe we'll share at another time, where that's exactly what happened. The kid came, they lied. It was as typically what they do. They think that's the way to get out of trouble is to lie to me, but I've been lied to so many times I could see right through it.
Right.
And then they were held accountable, but then they made it all the way through the graduation, and some beautiful things happen, and that they're doing with their lives because they were able to own up and to learn from the mistakes that they made. I think that's a wonderful lesson for us in life. Not to get discouraged when we fail and make mistakes, but to learn from them, to grow from them, so we can not only be better people, but become more of who God created us to be. So that was my approach.
Yeah. Did you ever have an encounter with someone after the fact, like you had something happen while they were a student, and then maybe later in their adult life you crossed paths again?
Yeah, actually, there's a guy that works at the airport. He works as kind of like one of those customer service people, like information, like they walk around and you have any questions, ask me, and that kind of thing. And I when I saw him, I didn't recognize him. He came up to me and said, "Deacon Harold?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then I looked at him and said, "Wait a minute, you look familiar." He goes, "Remember me? I was in your youth group at the parish." And I was like, "Oh, I remember you. You were the biggest pain ever."
Right.
And he started laughing, and we talked about, I said, "Oh, I remember this and I remember that." I go, yeah, I remember. But he also remembered how I brought them dinner. He goes, there were nights we wouldn't have eaten had it not been for you. There were times they were evicted and they were staying in a motel, and I brought them dinner that night and ate with them in the motel. He goes, "I remember all of that, and I remember the lessons that you taught us when I was a kid. And now I have my own family." He goes, I don't know where I'd be if it weren't for you. I'm so grateful." And he's close with God now. And I'm like, whoa, look at the turnaround here. It just goes to show you never know what kind of example and witness you can be when you're just, in the life of someone else.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Well, and I love that too, because then it's a reminder of really how we should treat each other with grace and mercy. And you don't know what someone's going through, which is causing them to act that way. Or maybe they just didn't have an upbringing where they were literally given a definitive line between do this, don't do that. And here's what will happen if you do or don't. And so I love, as they say, it takes a village, right? I love when there's people investing into my kids when I'm not around. So I love stories like that.
Yeah, and there were 3 kids in that family. This particular guy was the oldest. He also had a sister and a younger brother. And from what he tells me, because I had not seen them in years, they're all doing very well now. And I'm grateful to God for that. All right, my friends, got a very special guest, Debbie Capen, talking about MiraVia. She's the executive director of a wonderful pregnancy resource center. We're going to learn all about it. Of course, we'd love for you to be part of the program. Send us an email, beacon@EWTN.com. Oh, how fun.
It's almost like a Pee-wee's Playhouse kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it sounds like something you would hear like in an arcade or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Family Fun Center,
Right.
theme or something like that.
Or like those
that's
scenes,
very
like
nice.
the montages they have in like movies where like they're in a training or it's a dating, like a romantic comedy, and so it's them kind of going along the beach and then they're riding bikes and they're having ice cream, like that's how
yeah, exactly.
This is the
Exactly.
MTV generation. Like everything has a visual aspect to it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great how music like this can automatically like focus you in on a particular place or a particular, like you said, movie or whatever, and you make that connection with the music. See, that's how powerful music is.
That's right.
It's awesome. I'm Deacon Harold Burke-Simmons. You're listening to Beacon of Truth, and today we have a very special guest, Debbie Capen, who's the executive director of MiraVia. We're going to learn all about her and that amazing organization. And of course, we'd love for you to be part of the program today. Send us an email, beacon@EWTN.com.
Don't forget, this summer you have a chance to catch up with Mother Angelica and the memorial, as we've got that easily available for you when you check it out online, EWTN.com. All kinds of great photos and heartfelt stories, and her wit, one of my favorite characteristics of Mother Angelica. But check it out, EWTN.com/Mother Angelica.
All right, my friends, it's now time for the Soulful Psalms segment of Beacon of Truth. The Soulful Psalms, we take one of the Psalms from the wisdom literature of the Old Testament that we hear in every single holy sacrifice of the Mass, and we connect that Psalm to your everyday lived experience. Well, today we're going to just take a quick look at verse 3 of Psalm 60. So Psalm 60 is in book 2 of the Psalms, Psalms 42 to 72. And of those Psalms, Psalms 51 to 72 are all written by David. So Psalm 60 would have included that. The prescript is 2 verses long, and it's too long for me to read in Hebrew, so I'll just do the English today. It says, for the choir master, intoned like the lily of testimony. So again, David wrote the psalm, gave it to the choir master, said, I want this psalm to sound like the lily of testimony, or Shoshanim in Hebrew. So it says, Lemenzeach, Shoshanim, Miktam HaDavid, a Michtam. So Miktam today means thing that covers, but we don't know, again, what Miktam would have meant back at the time that this psalm was written. This is a Miktam of David for instruction when he went out against the Aram Haharim and the Aram Sobah, and when Joab returned to Edom and defeated 12,000 in the Valley of Salt. And we can see all of that in 1 Samuel. So the verse 3 says this, O God, you have rejected us and broken us. You have been angry. Come back to us. Wow. That's the way David starts this psalm off. So again, David crying out, again, recognizing the fact that, it feels like God turned his back on us. God is abandoning us. No, we're the ones. God is always faithful. We're the ones who rejected his teaching. We're the ones who broke covenant relationship with him. we're the ones who made this mistake. But now, because we made the mistake, God allows, because He loves us, just like any parent, sometimes we make mistakes, and the parent allows certain things to happen, consequences from that mistake, so we can learn and grow from those mistakes. Right. So that's what's happening here. So, but David is articulating the feeling. God, you have rejected us. You have broken us. Man, look what my life is like now, when I made the decision to turn away from you. But Lord, now I get it. Now I understand. Come back, Lord. Come back into my life. Come back into my heart. Don't leave me here, with this feeling of abandonment. Come back, Lord. Turn around. Let your face, the light of your face shine in my life again. Which is actually a beautiful segue into our guest today. We're going to be introducing you now to Debbie Capen, the executive director of MiraVia. Debbie comes from a Catholic background, and now helps women who with unplanned pregnancies to manage the pregnancy. And MiraVia is just a beautiful, beautiful apostle of the Lord, and it's so great to have Debbie on. Like I said, Debbie and I met at the Catholic Leadership Conference that met at Franciscan University of Steubenville earlier this year, and so incredibly grateful to have her on the show. So Debbie, welcome to Beacon of Truth. So glad that you're here.
So glad to be here. Thank you, Deacon. And boy, did that psalm speak to my soul.
Oh, that's so awesome. So Debbie, this is your first time being on with us here on Beacon of Truth. So people may not be familiar with who you are. So just share with us a little bit about your story, maybe your faith journey, and how you came to be doing the work that you're doing now.
Well, certainly, the more I tell my story, the more I find out that it's not that unique. I'm a revert. I was, raised in a Catholic family. I'm from a beach town in South Carolina, the youngest of three, and we would go to church on Sundays, and I went to catechism or faith formation. I kind of joke back then in the 70s and 80s, it was more like a kumbaya catechism compared to what we have today. Um, and nothing too remarkable until, sadly, when I was 13, my father passed away suddenly, and that really changed my path, I would say, for the worse. And by the time I got to college, I had really fallen away from my faith. The only time I went to church was when I went home and visited my mom, and I'd go with her to mass. And so, like a lot of folks, I really just got absorbed into that college culture. And by the time I graduated, I considered myself a feminist. I was taking classes, studying all kinds of feminist literature, and thought that, I was so enlightened, right? As opposed to what I had been brought up with. And along that way, during the summer between my freshman and sophomore year, I found out that I was pregnant. And I was too ashamed to tell my mom, too afraid to tell my mom. She had been working hard to keep me in school after my dad had passed away. And so sadly, I felt like I had no choice. They say pro-choice because, they consider it that, oh, it's this empowering option. But like a lot of women, I felt I had no choice. I felt very fearful. I went to my college campus health clinic to ask for a pregnancy test. And not only did they not give me a pregnancy test, they said, if you already took one at home, you're pregnant, and there's really not anything that we can offer for you, except to look up abortion in the yellow pages. And so sadly, that was the path of my life for years. And we can get more into that later. Until I met my now husband, and through the mercy of God and his divine mercy, we both came back to the faith and got married in 1999, and now have seven beautiful children. And he's a Catholic school teacher, and I work for a Catholic apostolate. So God is so good, like you said in your remarks, to allow us to learn from the tragedies and mistakes in our life, but then from that to go and to help others and to be the hands and feet of Christ to those who need us.
Wow. Man, and you're right. I mean, your story is unique to you, but I mean, but so many other women have been in the position that you were in, and you know, but to learn and to grow from that, and the work that you're doing now is just amazing. So how did you um, come to this? Like, come to the work of MiraVia. How did that all come about?
Yeah, it's interesting how my life and my faith life is woven together with the work of MiraVia. When John and I came back to our faith, someone invited us to a banquet for a fundraiser for a program that helped pregnant women. And so we started going to the banquet every year and made wonderful friends and were really invested. But at that time, nobody really knew my story. Just I had confided in my husband, but no one else knew. And it was actually the director of this organization. I got to know her, and she um, inspired me. I got active in pro-life activities in the Charlotte area. And one day she picked up the phone and called me and she said, "Hey, there's this new group called Silent No More Awareness. And they're going to be giving their testimonies uptown at the corner Trade and Tryon, which is basically the center of uptown Charlotte." She's like, "I would love for there to be as many friendly faces there as possible. Would you consider going?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll go." So I took off my lunch break from my job and I went uptown. And I was standing on the sidewalk listening to woman after woman step up and tell her heart-wrenching story of her own abortion. And the Holy Spirit was just whispering and telling me, "What are you doing standing on this side of the sidewalk with everyone else listening as if you don't belong up there as well?"
Mm.
And I just felt convicted, and it was almost like the Holy Spirit just pushed me. And I took that
Wow.
first step across the sidewalk and walked up the steps to the little platform where they were speaking. And some of the people there knew me. And as they handed me the sign that said, "I regret my abortion," I could see the faces look at me like I had no idea. And so after everyone had spoken, she invited me to tell my testimony. And so I did. And it was really one of those moments because as I was speaking, I saw in the crowd one of my college roommates' husbands walk by on his lunch break, and she had been one of the ones that had gone with me that day for my abortion. And again, my poor friends at the time, they just thought they were being supportive, you know. But to me, that was God saying, "I want you to do more. There are faces and people out there that need to hear your story." And so I continued to stay involved with the organizations. And the year that MiraVia announced that they were transitioning from a traditional maternity home model to having a program on a college campus to serve pregnant college students, I wanted to jump out of my seat. I said, "Somebody gets it, they get it. um, how can I get involved, right?" And so Cindy Brown, who was the director at the time, invited me the following year to tell my story at the banquet. And I went from very few people knowing my story to basically everybody I knew knowing my story. And God bless my husband, who's been so supportive of this whole journey and encouraging me every step of the way. And from that involvement, I ended up working for MiraVia. And in 2008, I joined. And then in 2017, I became the executive director. So I have been able to see this program go from an idea to now housing women from all over the country.
Wow, what a beautiful testimony. And I can't wait to dive deeper into the work of MiraVia. And I'm sure people will be tremendously blessed by this. Would love for you to be part of the program. We're on with Debbie Capen today. Send us an email, my friends. Beacon@EWTN.com.
Little swampy.
Yeah, yeah. Is it, again, the movie soundtrack in my mind, that the car in the South, like the 1950s, driving down the street, you know, driving down the highway on their way to somewhere, driving through like a little swampy area,
Right.
in deep South on some kind of hot summer's day, and the top is down. They got their wind blowing in the hair blowing in the wind, which I wouldn't know anything about, of course. But sipping a tea or something like that, yeah, definitely brings you into that mood.
I miss the days of the front porch. Can I just say that? Like, when I was little, like, we'd go to my great-grandparents' house and we just sit on the porch. Like, and I thought that was the greatest. Get a little, bottle of pop, maybe a candy bar. It was great.
Yeah, I remember, well, we didn't have much of a formal front porch per se, but it was like this brick kind of 5 or 6 stair landing, and we used to during the summer flip cards, baseball cards we call flipping cards and stuff like that, and or trade stuff and just sit down and just have some conversation. Or between wiffle ball games, we'd come and my mom would bring us, me and my friends, stuff to drink, Funny Face or what that
all right.
the big Kool-Aid, Funny Face, it was different than Kool-Aid. But anyway, she used to this wonderful memory. Listen to the cicadas during the summer, and all of that. It's just awesome, man. Beautiful memories there. All right. I'm Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, listening to Beacon of Truth. And today we have a very special guest on with us today, Debbie Capen, the Executive Director of MiraVia, who provides pregnancy resources and services, particularly for college-age students, which is awesome. I think that's in a lot of ways an underserved community when it comes to pregnancy resources. We have to, you see in the movies, you hear about the activities that college kids engage in, but what are some of the repercussions of that? And then how can we support them when women do become pregnant so this is what MiraVia does. And so I'm so excited talking with Debbie Capen. And would love for you to be part of the program, of course. Send us an email today, my friends, beacon@EWTN.com.
While you're traveling for the summer months, check out Podcast Central. We have one of our latest editions with Dr. Greg Popchak, the B Datitudes. We have the B Datitudes and the B Datitudes. So those are two different ones, but they're both amazing. Play on words, of course, but you can find out more. Of course, we know Greg from More to Life here on EWTN. But if you want to know how to be an awesome dad this summer, check it out. B Datitudes, Podcast Central at EWTN.com/podcast.
All right. So we heard in the last part of the show, Debbie Capen sharing her story of her own abortion and as a college student, and how she came to be the executive director and kind of leading and steering the work of MiraVia's Outreach Center. And so, Debbie, again, thank you so much for being on with us today. I think the work that you're doing is incredibly important. Right now, we're taping this show during the summer, kind of a break in the college, between semesters, during the summer break. And so I know there's probably a lot of college students and parents who are listening to this program today and think, well, wait a minute, do we have anything like that, in my area? So tell us a little bit more about what the specific work of outreach work that MiraVia does. Like what is the Outreach Center?
So we have an outreach center in Charlotte that serves women that have material needs. And so we see literally thousands of clients there every year. And so that's our local focus. And then our residential program that's here at Belmont Abbey College is open to women that are going to any school. We've had women now from 10 different states, 12 or 13 now different colleges from as far away as Texas, because there just is not enough out there serving pregnant college students. And that's what's beautiful about the invitation that Belmont Abbey College gave to us. They donated the land. We built and operate the facility. And as you know, the Benedictines have this beautiful charism of hospitality, of creating sacred space for the world to come into. And so that's what we are blessed to be a part of, that we've created the sacred space that's supportive. Every mom who comes to us gets her own private room. If anybody watches on YouTube, that's where I'm sitting right now, is in one of the rooms. And they get 3 meals a day, they get childcare, they get the support that they're not finding. In this world where colleges love to talk about inclusivity, the last people to feel included are those that are pregnant. And so what we're doing here is very unique. This partnership with a Catholic college and a Catholic apostolate to create a solution in a world where no one else is paying attention to this. And I would say that almost everybody I speak to knows of someone that got pregnant in college, or who's had a girlfriend. Everybody knows somebody, right? And we hear it over and over again, like, I wish there had been something like this for me. And now we're hearing it every time someone comes and tours. They're asking, why isn't this at every college campus? To which I always say, that's a great question. You should ask your college.
Yeah, and something I didn't realize is that this was open to pregnant college students from all over the country. I thought it was maybe just a local thing there with but that is awesome to know, that there is a place where they can go, where pregnant women can go, college students, and feel still whole, and feel supported, and feel loved, and don't feel like they're that they are a burden, that the life that they have inside them is a gift, and to be able to have that gift nurtured, and their souls fed as well, is absolutely beautiful thing. So how many college students? I mean, do you have, what capacity do you have? Like, how many students can you take at one time,
Yeah.
and
We average
what kind of staff? Like, what kind of staff do you have to support the work that you're doing there?
Certainly, we average 8 moms a year. We have a really large facility that, if need be, we could house up to 15 moms and their children. It's a beautiful facility. It's 24/7 staffed, with professional, caring people that are here, round the clock, to be that support. All of our moms have a client care manager that they meet with weekly to go over what are their needs, like and keep focused on the goals. They can stay with us until their child is 2. So at the moment that they walk in, they know that we're going to help them have a plan of independence. So if they graduate in that time, or if they don't graduate in that time, they are going to have independence. They're going to be the best moms that they can be. They're going to feel supported. If they're in a healthy relationship with the father of the baby, we encourage that as well. We love when dads are involved. And I always like to point out that it is just as much a service to the men as it is to the women, because a lot of times, the father of the child doesn't know what to do either. And he might be panicking and, questioning, does he have to jump out of school and go to work? We want to be there to be that safety net, so that both of them can pause, understand that this is a gift, that they don't have to panic, and that they can have the lives that they dreamed of, but even more so. I mean, our moms say time and time again that their child is the best thing that ever happened to them. One of my favorite questions to ask them is, like, if you could go back in time to that moment that you found out that you were pregnant and when you were panicked, what would you tell yourself? And overwhelmingly, they always say, like, that everything is going to be okay, and more than okay. This child you are going to love more than life itself, and this child is going to put you on a path, that to make you the strongest woman that you never knew that you could be. And so that's our plan here, is just to be supportive and to help them to see. And we hear from the students here at Belmont Abbey College, when they see our moms on their campus, that it evangelizes them. And that's one of the most powerful things that I think, is that when people see it, then it becomes not this scary monster, right? They see these happy students that, yes, life took a turn that they did not expect, but they're taking the next good step. And that's all we can all do, right? If something happens unexpected, all you can do is take the next good step. And it's such a pleasure to be here to see them take that first step into MiraVia, where they're full of fear and anxiety, and see them relax and see them make friends and have this almost like a sorority of support for them where they get to share their journey with other moms. And by the time they leave, they take that step out of MiraVia, they're happy, they're confident. They are, our moms are nurses, they're teachers, they're in the business world, they're counselors. They are the people right next to you, in church or at work. And we are just, like I said, just so blessed to be a part of that solution for them.
I'm Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. You're listening to Beacon of Truth. And today we're talking all about MiraVia. And we're talking with the executive director, Debbie Capen, about the amazing work that this apostle is doing, MiraVia is doing for pregnant college students. So, of course, would love for you to be part of the program today. Send us an email, beacon@EWTN.com. Now, and I know this program is both in English and Spanish, which is awesome. And so, in order to be eligible for this program, I know you have to be 18, right? And
Yeah,
obviously, you have to be pregnant, right? And what
right.
else is a part? So if people listening right now saying, "Wait a minute, I know someone in this situation," or this is really good information for me to have. So if I ever hear someone in this situation, I know I can recommend them. So what other criteria in order to be part of the MiraVia program?
Yeah, we get that question a lot. And, our main criteria are, like you said, that they're pregnant, that they're over 18, that they're in any post-high school education program. So that's one of the big myths. They don't have to be a Belmont Abbey College student. In fact, most of our moms aren't because maybe their discipline isn't offered by Belmont Abbey. But I tell you what, the monks at Belmont Abbey are so generous. They provide 100% tuition assistance to any mom that
Wow.
that does go to Belmont Abbey. And so those are the main criteria, and that they are willing to come and help, let us help them. And I think that's a big thing in our society is people are afraid to ask for help. And it can be very humbling. And so my philosophy here is just to treat others the way you would want to be treated. And like I said, I could have used this service. So how would would want it to be treated? And a lot of times it's the parents of the pregnant young woman that will call us. And I find that a lot of my work ends up, talking them down too, saying it's going to be okay. You're going to have this beautiful grandchild that you're going to be able to love and be loved by, and your daughter's going to be okay. People have been doing this ever since the beginning of time. And so, um, and so, yeah, that's the main criteria. And if they want to join Belmont Abbey College, they're more than welcome to. And so we're gonna figure it out with them one way or the other.
Yeah, and I'm assuming because you don't know all the people who are coming to you like this. Do you do a background check or drug test or anything like that as well?
Yeah, we want everybody here to feel safe. This is
Yeah.
not a crisis shelter. This is not someone just coming in for a few nights. We do. My background is in corporate human resources, so I plug that in a lot here. We ask that we do a reference check just to make sure that the situation is what they're explaining to us. We do a criminal background check. There can't be any active drug addiction, no violent criminal history. This is a safe space. And so I would want my own family to feel safe here. And so that's what we do. And when there is someone that might have some things in their past, but they have completely course corrected and they're on a different path, we take that into consideration as well, right? And if they're a little bit nervous about coming to North Carolina, I always say, like, North Carolina is a destination state for schools, for colleges. Lots of people, come to this beautiful state to go to school, and and sadly, it's also become a destination for abortion because of the access to abortion here in North Carolina. And so it's so important for us to offer that solution, so that it just becomes unthinkable. There's importance in policy and politics, but I am a firm believer that, we overturned, Roe versus Wade through Dobbs, but it also has to be overturned in every person's heart. And that's what we're here to do, is to help people to see, like, this is a baby. It's not, it's not a threat. And unfortunately, college campuses are ground zero for this debate. And there are so many colleges now that you can walk up to a vending machine and get the morning after pill. So the colleges know